Wuthering Heights Preview. Read these quotes about love and discuss them. Which one do you like best and why? It is better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. Alfred Lord Tennyson. And love is a thing that can never go wrong. Dorothy Parker. The heart that truly loved never forgets. The main characters in the novel are Heathcliff, an orphan boy who is taken in to live with Earnshaw family at Wuthering Heights, in a remote wild part of Yorkshire, and Catherine, the daughter in the family. They grow to love each other passionately, but in the end Catherine decides for various reasons to marry her rich and handsome but weak neighbour Edgar Linton instead. The following excerpt is from chapter 9. Old Mr. Earnshaw is now dead. His son Hindley, Catherine's brother, is a widower with a small son, Hareton. Hindley is a violent drunkard who, as the master of the house, keeps Heathcliff as a servant and bullies and humiliates him. Nellie Dean, who used to be Catherine's nurse, is telling the story. First and foremost, do you love Mr. Edgar? I asked Catherine. Who can help it? Of course I do, she answered. Why do you love him, Miss Cathy? Nonsense, I do, that's sufficient. By no means, you must say why. Well, because he's handsome and pleasant to be with. Bad, was my commentary. And because he's young and cheerful. Bad still. And because he loves me. Indifferent, coming there. And he will be rich, and I shall like to be the greatest woman of the neighborhood, and I shall be proud of having such a husband. Worst of all. And now you say how you love him. As everybody loves. You're silly, Nellie. Not at all. Answer. I love the ground under his feet, and the air over his head, and everything he touches, and every word he says. I love all his looks and all his actions, and him entirely, and together. There now. And why? Nay, you are making a jest of it. It is well ill-natured. It's no jest to me, said the young lady, scowling and turning her face to the fire. I'm very far from jesting it, Miss Catherine, I replied. You love Mr. Edgar because he's handsome and young and cheerful and rich and loves you. The last, however, goes for nothing. You would love him without that, probably, and with it you wouldn't unless he possessed the four former attractions. No, to be sure not. I should only pity him, hate him, perhaps if he were ugly and a clown. But there are several other handsome, rich young men in the world, handsomer possibly and richer than he is. What should hinder you from loving them? If there be any, they are out of my way. I've seen none like Edgar. You may see some, and he won't always be handsome and young, and may not always be rich. He is now, and I have only to do with the present. I wish you would speak rationally. Well, that settles it. If you have only to do with the present, marry Mr. Linton. I don't want your permission for that. I shall marry him. And yet you have told me whether I'm right. Perfectly right, if people be right to marry only for the present. And now let us hear what you are unhappy about. Your brother will be pleased. The old lady and gentleman will not object. I think you will escape from a disorderly, comfortless home into a wealthy, respectable one. And you love Edgar, and Edgar loves you. All seems smooth and easy. Where is the obstacle? Here, and here, replied Catherine, striking one hand on her forehead and the other on her breasts. In whichever place the soul lives, in my soul and in my heart. I'm convinced I'm wrong. That is very strange. I cannot make it out. It's my secret, but if you will not mock at me, I'll explain it. I can't do it clearly, but I'll give you a feeling of how I feel. She seated herself by me again. Her expression grew sadder and graver, and her clasped hands trembled. Nellie, do you never dream queer dreams? She said, suddenly, after some minutes' reflection. Yes, now and then, I answered. And so do I. I've dreamt in my life that have stayed with me ever after, and changed my ideas. They've gone through and through me, like wine through water, and out of the color of my mind. And this is one. I'm going to tell it, but take care not to smile at any part of it. don't. Miss Catherine, I cried. We're dismal enough without conjuring up ghosts and vision to perplex us. Come, come, be merry and like yourself. Look at little Hareton. He's dreaming nothing dreary. How sweetly he smiles in his sleep. Yes, and how sweetly his father curses in his solitude. You remember him, I dare say, when he was just such another as that chubby thing, nearly as young as innocent. However, Nellie, I want you to listen. It's not long. I've no power to be merry tonight. I won't hear it, I won't hear it, I repeated hastily. I was superstitious about dreams then, and I am still, and Catherine looked unusually gloomy, which made me dread something from which I might shape prophecy and foresee a fearful catastrophe. She was vexed, but she did not proceed. Apparently taking up another subject, she recommenced in a short time. If I were in heaven, Nellie, I should be extremely miserable. Because you are not fit to go there, I answered. All sinners would be miserable in heaven. But it's not far for that. I dreamt once that I was there. I tell you, I won't listen to your dreams, Miss Catherine. I'll go to bed, I interrupted again. She laughed and held me down, for I made a motion to leave my chair. This is nothing, cried she. I was only going to say that heaven did not seem to be my home, and I broke my heart with weeping to come back to earth, and the angels were so angry that they flung me out into the middle of the heap to the top of Wuthering Heights, where I woke sobbing up for joy. That will do to explain my secret as well as the other. I've no more business to marry Edgar Linton than I had to be in heaven, and if the wicked Hindley had not brought Heathcliff so low, I shouldn't have thought of it. I would degrade me to marry Heathcliff now. You shall never know how I love him, and that not because he's handsome, Nellie, but because he's more myself than I am. Whatever our souls are made of, his and mine are the same, and Linton's is as different as a moonbeam from lightning, a frost from fire. Ere this speech ended, I became sensible of Heathcliff's presence. Having noticed a slight movement, I turned my head and saw him rise from the bench and steal out noiselessly. He had listened till he heard Catherine say it would degrade her to marry him, and then he stayed to hear no further. My companion, sitting on the ground, was prevented by the back of the settee from noticing his presence or departure, but I started and bade her hush. Why? She asked, gazing nervously around. Joseph is here, I answered, hearing the roll of his cartwheels up the road, and Heathcliff will come in with him. I'm not sure whether he were not at the door at this moment. Oh, he couldn't overhear me at the door, said she. Give me Hareton while you get the supper, and when it's ready ask me to sup with you. I want to be convinced that Heathcliff has no notion of these things. He has not, has he? He does not know what being in love is. I see no reason he should not know as well as you, I returned, and if you are his choice, he'll be the most unfortunate creature that was ever born. As soon as you become Mrs. Linton, he'll lose his friend and love and all. Have you considered how he'll bear the separation, how he'll bear to be quite deserted in the world? Miss Catherine, he quite deserted, who is separated, she exclaimed with an accent of indignation. Who is separate us, pray? Not as long as I live, Ellen, for no mortal creature, even every Linton on the face of the earth might melt into nothing before I could consent to forsake Heathcliff. Oh, that's not what I intend, that's not what I mean. I shouldn't be Mrs. Linton were such a price demanded. He'll be as much to me as he has been all his lifetime. Edgar must shake off his antipathy and tolerate him at least. Well, when he learns my true feelings toward him, Nellie, I see now you think me a selfish wretch. But it never struck you that if Heathcliff and I married, we should be beggars. Whereas if I marry Linton, I can aid Heathcliff to rise and place him out of Hindley's power. With your husband's money, Miss Catherine, I asked, you'll find him not pliable as you calculate upon, and, though I'm hardly a judge, I think that the worst motive you've given yet for being the wife of young Linton. It's not, retorted she, it's the best. I cannot express it, but my great miseries in the world have been Heathcliff's miseries, and I watched and felt each from the beginning. My great thought in living it is himself. If all else perished and he remained, I should still continue to be, and if all else remained and he were annihilated, the universe would turn to a mighty stranger. I should not seem a part of it. My love for Linton is like the foliage in the woods. Time will change it, I'm well aware, as winter changes the trees. My love for Heathcliff resembles the eternal rocks beneath, the source of little visible delight, but necessary. Nelly, I am Heathcliff. He's always, always in my mind, not as a pleasure any more than I'm always a pleasure to myself, but as my own being, then I'm always. So don't talk of our separation again. It's impracticable, and she paused and hid her face in the folds of my gown. But I jerked it forcibly away. I was out of patience with her folly. If I can't make any sense of your nonsense, miss, I said, it only goes to convince me that you're ignorant of the duties you're undertaking marrying, or else that you're a wicked and principled girl. But trouble me with no more secrets. I'll not promise to keep them. You'll keep that, she asked eagerly. No, I'll not promise, I repeated. She was about to insist when the entrance of Joseph finished our conversation, and Catherine removed her seat to a corner and nursed Hareton while I made the supper. From Wuthering Heights, 1847, by Emily Bronte. Questions. Make a list of characters mentioned in the excerpt and say who they are. Catherine is torn between two men. How does she feel about each of them? Towards the end of the passage, in the paragraph beginning, "It is not," retorted she, Catherine uses two similes to describe her love for the two men. What are they? Why does Heathcliff leave? Define in your own words the link between Catherine and Heathcliff. Describe Catherine's personality. B. What examples of romantic language, including nature, are there in the text? Make a list. 2. Find words related to feelings. Make a list. 3. Find words and expressions related to things beyond reality. For example, ghosts. Extra, not obligatory. Do you think that a marriage between Catherine and Edgar would be a happy one? Why not? Put yourself in Catherine's shoes. What would you do? Accent, addiction, alter, annihilate, antipathy, apparently, attraction, bid, babe, bidden, beneath, fully, business, more business to, calculate upon, partly, catastrophe, cheerful, chubby, clasp, comfortless, commentary, conjure, conjure up, consent to, creature, curse, dare, smell, dismal, disorderly, do that it will do, tread, dreary, drunkard, entirely, ear, eternal, exert. Fling, flung, flung, fold, foliage, folly, forcibly, foresee, forsake, forsaken, gaze, gloomy, governess, gown, grave, eve, ache, height, hinder, humiliate, hush, ignore it off, ill nature, impracticable, indifferent, insist, jest, lightning, mighty, mock at, moonbeam, moor, mortal, motion, nay, notion, nurse, object, obstacle, orphan, overhear, perish, permission, perplex. Pity, pliable, possess, pray, proceed, prophecy, queer, rationally, recommends, rectory, retort. Sufficient, soft, superstitious, tuberculosis, undertake, unfortunate, unprincipled, vexed. Vision, whereas, whether, wicked, widower, wretched.